Hi, welcome to Let Us Know. This is me, your presenter, Lado Wadenjada. In our today's program, we are going to discuss about the education system in Lake State. And we are happy to join us in the studio is none other than the Minister of General Education, Science and Technology in Lake State, Honorable Dud McCoy. Honorable Dud McCoy, you are welcome to our program.
Thank you so much, dear brother, and thank you all listeners.
Okay. Could you please tell us the general situation in Lake State?
Thank you so much. In fact, the general situation of education is poor. You know, Lake State is the least state in terms of enrollment, in terms of physical infrastructure, in terms of trained teachers, etc. You know, we have 365 schools and only 8 secondary schools, plus 1 private secondary school and 1 national secondary school. So you can see the number of secondary schools in comparison to the number of primary schools is not matching. In addition to that, there's no proper training that has ever taken place in the state. This is the first time now this year where we have gotten support from the state government and from the national government. In fact, the state governor, Major General Maturishundwal, is doing a lot to see into it that education system improves in Lake State. Lake State previously was known for education. You know, is a place where a number of South Sudanese studied, is the place where the first secondary school was opened, and everybody expects that Lake State is improving, but there's no any improvement in education system generally in Lake State.
Okay, you're talking of 60-something schools. Can you tell us how many primary schools among these, within this number of schools, and how many secondary schools?
No, I'm talking of primary schools, which I just said there are 365, plus 8 public secondary schools. Actually, they were opened by the state government, and 1 private secondary school plus 1 national secondary school, which is Rumbek Secondary School. So the number is 375 in total.
Yeah. Okay. Honorable, can you tell us how does the security situation affect education system in the state?
Previously, it was affecting education, but now there's improvement in security, and the schools are up and running now. There's teaching all over the state, but previously there were schools that were affected by insecurity, and they happened to come to urban areas, but now all over the state, teaching is going on very well.
You said there is a poor, there is no single training being carried out for the teachers in the state. Can you tell us why the training is not being carried out?
Well, there is this in-service training, which takes sometimes fewer.
Who is in charge of this?
Well, the Ministry of Education is in charge, in collaboration with partners, education partners. But it's not coming to fruition because the number being taken annually is very small in comparison to the number of teachers. So the training is not that of quality even, and is not serving the purpose.
So you mean to say that there is no any training taking place even during the year?
For the last 2 months, I've been there as a minister. You know, I was a minister of information. I've never seen any activity taking place with regards to training of teachers. And I came here to attend a conference of 10 states ministers with our boss, the National Minister of Education. And we flag up these issues of training. So he has promised us to look into it, and I believe he's a honest and able person. He will be doing something with regards to training of teachers, because it's vital. If a teacher is not trained, you know, our teachers have not completed, even most of them have not completed their studies. And for them to continue teaching in the schools, there will be no any quality of the service they are delivering. So what is supposed to be done is to give emphasis to their training, so that they are trained on teaching methodology and so on and so forth.
Are there any new infrastructure people are able to build for schools?
There's no any infrastructure so far for the last 3 to 4 years, except that this year the governor, Major General Maturishun plus the national government Ministry of Education managed to send some money to us. In fact, around 1 million. It was 580,000, which was meant for counties. We received all this money, and then they sent another 400 from BRAC support from BRAC, and this has gone immediately to school. So there is now activity going for the first time in the state, and we have even appreciated the governor and the national ministry for that support, which has never been coming to education.
Okay, could you tell us the coordination between you and the federal ministry here?
Well, states are separate entity in one way or the other, but we are a line ministry. You know, states have got their governments, and there are procedures, of course, for following up issues here in the national government. But then that one does not affect the Ministry of Education because we are a line ministry. So we continue flagging up our issues to the state government as well as to the national government. And the level of cooperation and coordination is excellent. It's very excellent, yes.
Okay. Compared to previous years and now, what is the enrollment of this year?
Well, last year the enrollment was 100,000, and this year is almost the same number because of some problems here and there with regards to issues of insecurity. So it is more than 1,000 plus, 100,000 plus.
So at least it's better.
It's better than the last year.
What about the issue of the girls? Because you know we have this problem still in our culture, in some of our culture, that you know taking a girl to a school is a real problem. Is it the case in your state?
Yes, it's definitely a case because girls are wealth in our tradition, and we're trying our best to sensitize our community and make them aware that the meaning of wealth can be even better when now you take your child to school, because the wealth she will be getting after graduation is much bigger than what you will be getting if you married her off. So we are making awareness, and I think the awareness campaigns we are doing are good, I believe.
The level of enrollment of girls' education?
It's now high.
It's high?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. But what are you doing to those parents who refuse to send their girls to education as government?
As government, you know, there is now a support which is coming from BRAC. This support is supposed to take care of the problems of girl child. And we are actually telling them that take your children to school, particularly girl child is a center of our concentration. We're now concentrating to take all children to school, but we're telling them to take children to girl child to school. So the level of enrollment in comparison to other years is now high, simply because they got this understanding that you know, there are so many girls who have come up now in the state, who are ministers, some are advisors, and our population has understand now that it is important to take their children to school, particularly girls. And we also working with chiefs we're working with SIPs and PTAs to see into it that the whole community is sensitized and is made aware of the importance of taking their children to school, particularly girls.
We also knew that there is this problem of children going with their parents after the kettles. I don't know. How are you handling this situation in the state?
Well, we have a department for pastoralist education. And what we did this year is that we have actually analyzed the situation because, you know, cattle camps are mobiling all the time. So we have now shifted all the schools. We have a number of centers for pastoralist education, which have been positioned in one place or the other, but now we have directed them to move with cattle camps. So the teachers now are moving with cattle camps. This will encourage the parents to take their children to school because teachers are moving with them. Yes.
But what will the situation look like? Okay, teacher moving with those people. How will that help in the standard of the pupils?
Well, you know, sometimes cattle camps do not frequently move. They stay in a place for sometimes 1, 2 to 3 months, and this can be enough for a term to take place. You know, we are also considering putting centers across or along the main roads, so that now when a cattle camp is just nearby, children can come to a center. This will, I think, help the situation.
Okay, we understood also that there are books being distributed. I don't know whether those books are really enough to the students. And tell us generally about those books.
Well, books are not enough because we still have some textbooks here in the National Ministry of Education. We have not yet transported to the states. So the number of the textbooks taken to all our states are very little. So we're trying, and this is part of my mission here. We're trying now to transport our textbooks to lakes. Because the number we receive is really a very small number. And we have a number of books here in our stores here in the Ministry of Education.
Does those books reach all the counties?
Well, the books that have reached us are not enough, and therefore we have not distributed them to all counties. But now that have come here, I'll make sure that all the textbooks here will be transported and distributed to all our counties. Yes.
You talk of the challenges before, that you have very many challenges in this, the challenges that are facing your sector, education sector. You know, South Sudan is having generally a problem of science teachers. What are you doing about this situation, about this issue?
Well, in fact, in lakes, we actually have that problem, but we also have problem of teachers who are qualified to teach secondary schools. You know, we don't have any support from the National Ministry of Education for secondary schools. What the National Ministry of Education does is that they always take care of the national secondary schools. So they are providing feeding and even salaries of the teachers of Rumbek Secondary only. So we have a real problem with secondary schools which are supported by the state. And for that matter, you can see the situation. With meager resources of the state, you cannot now contract teachers who can teach all subjects. So we definitely have that problem in our state, and we are trying to solve it. One of the ways is that I've talked to the National Ministry here so that they give me some money to contract teachers from East Africa or from South Sudan. The other way is we have contacted Darfur community in lakes, and I found out that more than 30 teachers are assigned teachers, and they have jobs in Rumbek. They are traders. So I've talked to the community leadership, and we are now trying to work out ways and means of recruiting them, because they are highly experienced and they are specialized in physics, chemistry, and all other subjects related to sciences. This is good news. If I manage to convince them and give them little money, then we'll not have a problem. We will also expect the National Ministry to do something, because I've reported it and they have promised to look into it. Yes.
Okay, viewers, let us go for a break and then we'll be back and continue with our discussions. About the general system of education in Lake State, and with us in the studio is none other than the Minister for General Education, Science and Technology in the state, Honorable Dut McCoy. Honorable, you are saying you are trying to improve, or you are trying to encourage some teachers from East Africa, or even you said you got some Darfurians who are good in science, but they are working in the state as traders. And now you have this issue of the environment for the teachers itself. How will you manage to do that?
Well, environment, of course, is not conducive, particularly with East African teachers who might complain if they come to the state for one reason or another. For example, they may not get proper accommodation or proper feeding. But for those Darfurians, I believe there will be no one problem with them, because they are staying in the state for the last 2-3 years. We're trying to construct a place for teachers, because we already have some teachers from East Africa. So we're trying to put some structures where we will be accommodating teachers from East Africa. If we fail completely, because also we're fearing teachers from the Sudan, particularly those from Darfur, may not teach English well. So we're fearing having a problem there, and therefore we may actually concentrate on teachers from East Africa or from other part of South Sudan.
Okay. Do you know the government of South Sudan started moving from Arabic background to English background since 2005? Have you completed that process of moving from Arabic to English?
It's not yet completed, and what we're doing now is we have allowed those who have come from upper primary to secondary schools. There are now classes for Arabic in upper primary schools, and in secondary school there is one complete secondary school for Arabic children. So they're now studying Arabic, and we have very qualified people who can teach in Arabic. So we don't have any problem with regards to preparing them to go up to secondary level where they can sit for South Sudan examinations. And I believe within 3 to 4 years we will not have anybody studying Arabic in Lakes, because lower primary now is English. You know, it is only upper primary and one secondary school which is now teaching Arabic. So we will not have any problem after 2 to 3 years when they are now finished up and prepared to sit for South Sudan examinations.
Okay, don't you think one of the problems that the standard of schools are not improving simply because most of the leaders are sending their children outside? That's why they don't emphasize on the standard of education.
Well, you may be proportionally right in the sense that if your child is not with you in the house, you will not know whether he is being taught in the school or not, and you will not follow him or her in their studies. So you may be right there. But also coupled with that, the resources are very limited, by the way, and education, people sometimes refer to it as expensive. But it will not be expensive if you compare it with illiteracy, of course, because illiteracy is more expensive. You know, now people are now fighting. Even this senseless rebellion is ignited because of literacy. Because you cannot just take up arms because someone somewhere there wanted to be president, you know. But it is all because of literacy. So we cannot compare education with literacy. And in that sense, people are not supposed to talk of education being expensive, by the way. So the resources are very limited. If we had enough resources, even those leaders who have taken their children to East Africa or elsewhere have that tendency of improving education, you know. But the problem is with the resources. You know, our National Assembly, I think, has not given its attention, full attention to education. And if they had done that, I believe they would have even followed the approved budget, whether it is being given. Because now I understand, and this is the situation which is happening in our state, some of the money which is supposed to be for our state is not coming because of one reason or another. The National Ministry, sometimes the National Ministry of Finance sometimes does not send most of the money to our state. This is where the rub lies. This is where the problem is. For me, I know my children are in Rumbek, you know. They are studying in Rumbek. But I cannot do anything to improve education if I don't have resources. So the problem is not leaders taking their children abroad. The problem really is with resources. If we have resources, we have that capacity of improving our educational system.
But Honorable, maybe I cannot throw that on you. We understood our President made it clearly that his priority, security, education, and health. So all the resources are going almost to these sectors. How comes again now telling us there are no resources?
If there were resources, I just complain of secondary schools not getting salaries or any attention. They don't have salaries, they don't have training. You cannot imagine a small state which is in the center of the country, like Lake State, with no resources to support more than 10 or to support 10 secondary schools. You know, this cannot come, and we're doing that because we are not getting any support from the national ministry. So there's no money. If there was money, I believe secondary schools wouldn't be a responsibility of a state, because secondary schools would have been a total responsibility of the national government. But most of our states now are depending on little support they're getting from the state budget, you know, from the locally generated money. This calls for real attention from the national government, because we're not getting anything to support secondary education. What we're getting is only salary of primary school teachers, and I just cried for teachers of primary schools who are there for a number of years. They are not getting enough salary. You know, a teacher gets less than 300, and there is no any allowance, any other allowance. Teacher is not getting accommodation, and is not even being promoted. Imagine. We have not promoted, and this is an incentivization kind of thing, because when you promote a teacher, of course, you are increasing his salary, And you are telling him, thank you for what you are doing. But we are not now promoting our teachers for the last 7 or 8 years. This means what? It means resources are not there. That's why I said the problem is with resources.
Okay, Honorable, there is this problem of the technical schools. I don't know. If you look generally in the South, there are few technical schools. Is it the case in your state?
Yeah, precisely. That's what's happening in Lakes. You know, there is no any government-run vocational and technical school in our state. We have very small vocational school run by an NGO in Chuaibet County. I've just visited it, and it's a very small school. We're trying to encourage them to take a big number of students. But the whole state does not have any vocational and technical school. This is quite discouraging, and that's why we're depending on the labor coming from East Africa, by the way. And how long will the whole country depends on the foreign labor? So we're trying to do something. In April, we call for a meeting, for a conference to discuss this issue of vocational training. And I've talked to the national minister, and he appreciated it, and he's even saying he's working on having a national conference for education, so that all issues of education are flagged up to our leaders and tabled for discussion, and an amicable solution that addresses them is reached. So we're hopeful with the new Minister of Education, we're hopeful that things will improve. Previously, I do not know why our government concentrated on academic education. Like Lake State, you cannot open 10 secondary schools and they are all academic schools. What will we be doing after their graduation? Particularly with us having no companies, we don't have private sector that can take them. Even the government is not employing anybody. So it's like a waste training people who may not be marketable. You know? So it's a pity, and that's what is happening. So we're hoping that the new Minister of Education is highly committed to seeing into it that education improves. This is the only hope we have. Plus, we're hoping from the whole government, particularly His Excellency, the President, to see into it that education is taken care of and is improved by all actors.
Okay, what about the issue of the private school in the state?
That's another poor area. You know, there is no even department for primary education in my state. When I asked who is the director for private education, there was nobody, of course. So we're now trying to come up with a person that will now look for ways and means of attracting others, so that private education takes its course, because education is supposed to be competitive, you know. So when having a private school, there is now one private secondary school, but we're encouraging others to join us. I've discussed it with Ustaz William Atel, the advisor in the Ministry of Education. I've discussed it with the Deputy Minister of Education, and I'm seriously looking into ways and means of soliciting support, even from neighboring countries, so that we open private schools from primary up to secondary.
Okay, Rumbek by then was one of the famous school, secondary school almost throughout the South. And I don't know whether you people are still maintaining the standard of that, which actually, because Rumbek is one of the schools that produces a lot of leaders today leading this country.
Well, Rumbek Secondary is there, but it's taken over, although we are overseeing its functions, but it's under the national government. And there are problems, of course, a lot of problems with regard to training of teachers. Even teachers who are there are not enough. And because secondary schools in lakes are few, you get a number of them go always to that national secondary school. And because of its name, of course, so they have got a problem of learning spaces. You know, they don't have enough learning spaces, and they don't have, even now there is no feeding for those who are supposed to sit in June. Imagine the students are now preparing for South Sudan examinations, and feeding, which is supposed to go from the national government, has not yet gone. And we are just few days away from examination. So there are problems here and there. Even the head teacher who is there is, of course, able teacher and is highly experienced, but is also acting. You can see there is a problem here. The National Ministry of Education removed the former head teacher, and is not replaced yet. So there are problems here and there which we are trying to sort out. I hope it will go back to its famous days, and this is the hope of everybody and every leader who studied in Rumbek.
Okay, Honorable, you just said there people are waiting to sit for exams, the students in June. Can you tell us how prepared are they in the whole state?
Well, they are prepared, and I've visited them. I saw them. They are being coached. Although there is this problem of feeding, you know, we have a good number of students who come from other states. They are facing real problems, and with no food in the school, I don't think they can actually concentrate. So there's a problem, but preparation is there. Yeah.
How many do you have? How many of them are going to sit this year? Roughly
more than 300.
More than 300.
300.
300 only students
yes,
who will be sitting with secondary school certificate.
Yes.
Okay. What are you doing about these people who are not able to attend to education?
Generally speaking, we cannot do more than what I have explained. Basically, we're talking to the PTAs to make awareness. We're talking to chiefs, and we're making awareness with regards to importance of taking children to school. But then, you know, a number of people have a lot of problems. They are not working. Some of children have lost their parents, and they cannot afford going to school, because to go to school means you'll have to buy a school uniform, because we're not providing it. The government is not providing it. You have to have some money for your breakfast, you know, and for buying some books and some exercise. So this is a problem. For some families, they cannot do it. What we did is we have cancelled this issue of them paying a school fee. There are schools now where we have actually asked the parents not to pay anything, particularly schools being supported by BRAC. But we have some schools where community contributes some little money, 25 pounds only, you know, and even that small money is not easy for any other poor family to get. So there's a problem with them going to school because of those reasons.
Is it the only organization that is helping the education system in the state, the BRAC?
BRAC is one of the organizations supporting education in lakes, but we have other organizations like Save the Children is also doing a lot. We have UNICEF, and above all we have a well food program. Yes.
And then how comes the complaint of food now?
Well, they call themselves Well Food Program, but maybe Rumbek is not part of the well. They have not yet distributed food until now. They have been promising that they will distribute food, but they have not done it to all our schools. And the agreement,
what's the role of the government here now?
The agreement, we have written letters to them several times that they have to stick to the program which we have agreed with them. In fact, we have told them to distribute food, and this is a written agreement as from April. They have not done that until now, and we have been reminding them of the importance of distributing food, because already some schools have now experienced dropouts, high dropouts, because of that. You know, poor families sometimes have a problem when a child comes to school and stays for the whole day without food. Maybe tomorrow and after tomorrow, you will not see him or her coming again. Yeah, so we have a problem there. So Well Food Program has been promising us that they will distribute food through another organization, which we don't know why they are doing that for the first time. They have been directly distributing food, but they are saying now the food will be distributed by an NGO called Plan International. And we asked the Plan International how did they come in the middle here, and they said they will do their best to support education. So we have allowed them to do their job, but they are not doing it now, and we have written 3 letters to them now to do the job.
Okay, finally, what message do you want to pass to our public to conclude our discussions?
Well, first of all, what I've been reading or watching through our media is that the whole of South Sudan is complaining, by the way, and they don't know that we have problems. Some people think other states are better. Like now, if you go to statistics of education, you'll get Lagos State is the least state almost in everything, as I said, and we don't complain because we know the resources. So I call upon all our people in the country to observe the problems we're experiencing and give chance to the leadership of the country to improve, because we are a newborn country, and all newborn countries have been experiencing situations we are in now. I'm hopeful that things will change, and I'm hopeful with General Maturujud as our governor, because, by the way, he is paying his full attention to education. With him staying in the state as governor, we will sustain the successes that we're doing now in the education sector. And I believe other states are experiencing the same situation, but one is hopeful. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much, our dear viewers of South Sudan TV. With this, we have come to the end of our discussion. Till then, bye-bye. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.